Hi everyone, we're gonna start soon. Hi everyone, we're gonna start soon. Hi everyone, we're gonna start soon.
My wife said, if you win, we'll fly to Asia. If I win, we'll fly to Paris. I bet you won't get toned with just Tai Chi walking before
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of How to Vibe Code with Structure. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for joining. I would like to first thank you, everyone, for joining, and let us start. So basically, the main goal of this today's workshop is to walk you through the process of what it takes into developing into vibe coding nowadays. It's becoming a trend. Everybody try to develop something, and it's now all about creating structure. So how can you actually start an idea and complete it fully? And it took also some time. In the last year, I've been actively busy with vibe coding, and it took some time to find a structure that you can also scale on it. So that's the goal of today's workshop. A few words about myself. Michael, since 15 years delivering software, different digital solutions from ERP, microservices, websites, platforms, everything which runs on the web. And thanks to Base, now it became even easier to run on mobile apps. Without further ado, I would like to start roughly with the idea of what it means designing, just to make sure we don't talk about the Figma designs or the UI part, but rather from an holistic approach. How do you treat such a project? So those of you who have a bit more of enterprise experience, you most probably know already what it means to have a BRD and WBS and so on. But some of those, especially who just exposed recently into coding through vibe coding, I think those terms are not so clear. And in order to explain you how it works, I would like to walk you through a tool that we made exactly for today's workshop. So as you can see here, Nexora, let's say imaginary name, is made exactly to help you for creating a concept, a structure for a vibe coding project. So the first step, I wanted to choose an idea. I've been going through multiple ones, and I think instead of me sitting and typing here, I thought it would make more sense to pre-fill some of those fields and just then walk you through. The first thing, it was a real client that actually gave me the consent to use it. It's a startup, and instead of having a full discovery, which I definitely would suggest for startups that have the financial backing and the possibilities, or anybody who wants to scale quickly. But for a small startup, I think it's the way to go. So the guy has a private travel agency in Austria, and he wants to scale. So from having just tailor-made solutions, he wants to have to productize the service. He wants to scale his business in general. And as an entrepreneur, you come with different ideas. They're located in different places, and you're thinking the dots to connect them. And then especially when it becomes to develop your system, it becomes challenging, and sometimes you find yourself to be advanced in terms of where you are in the timeline for creating such a platform, but then you realize some things fall apart, and it's a shame. It's a pity when you lose that momentum. So that's the exactly goal today, to create a structure before you even do your initial prompt on a platform such as Base 44. So here, what you would see is, first of all, an app name, right? So if you get an idea, you need a name for it, you define the niche, and then you have like a one-line description. It's very important. So in that case, it's a luxury travel agent portal with tourism, within industry of tourism and leisure. And the one-line description would be a website for private travel agent / travel operator. So the problem that this platform should solve is a question that should be asked every time. So what are the main points? The idea here, travel information, Also the idea to list about us, different pages, the company, trips, different trips, and have high-level signature packages, private jets, and so on. The main goal is to have a front website that looks lucrative enough and is well structured, with a blog section and trips that should have filters in terms of season type, groups, private days. Then we want to have a single trip page. Then for the About Us section to have about 6 different pages with facts, parts, and so on. So that's basically the goal of which problems needs to be solved. Then why the problem matters now? It's also very important. Sometimes you have changes in the market, or it's a new project. But in that case, there is a new website is needed, better UI UX, modern, easy to use, have one place where the business is managed and customers can see what they ordered and all the needed info. And then who is the primary target user? In that case, we have only 2, but it's a very important questions. So in that case, it's the owner of the business, but also potential customers. Now, I shortly mentioned before about BRD. PRD, basically, it's an enterprise, let's say, approach, also mid segment for mid companies, to draft a document with business requirement document. I wish I could share real ones that we have, but we must consider those as highly confidential. Same applies to Base44 apps we developed. Most of them are being used in production mode already, and due to strict NDA rules, we may not share them. So that's why I will show you some imaginary BRDs. Those that are familiar with professional BRDs might look at it as a funny thing, but it's an important disclaimer. Business goals and KPIs are also very important. So basically those BRD documents help you to align the idea, the stakeholders, and the entire explanation of what this app is about. So imagine it if you're a Coca-Cola and then Coca-Cola wants to roll a new microservice. They cannot just vibe a line and start to include it, embed that service internally. They need to go through stakeholders. There are certain procedures and certain protocols that should be in place. That's why we have the business goals and KPI, stakeholders map, constraints and assumptions. So that would be the step number 1 in order to create such a draft. Let's continue. Then we have questions about the scope. So what type is the app? An internal tool, public product, both? Tenancy model, is it a single company or multi-tenant? Multi-tenant would mean, do we want to create now a solution that we can then later on use it as white label or deployed for other customers? Then if there are anything related into brand colors or brand fonts, we can also upload some logo or brand book. Then we have the business type, B2C, B2B, internal ops, monetizations. How do you want to monetize through the app? So in that case, it's selling trips or services. What is the goal of the MVP? So here we said to launch a new website where customers can buy trips themselves. And then we have the target market. So that would be hospitality and travel in terms of which market you're serving. List of the main geographies, Austria, where the users are located. Is it a local, region, or a global project? Is it B2B, B2C, mixed? Is it a regulated industry? Yes, no, and then if yes, which industry? Right? For enterprise, this is very important because enterprise distinguish a lot between internal productivity tools or external tools. For internal tools, it's a bit easier to roll out, whereas external platforms go through some compliance, SLAs, scale, security requirements, and that changes the scope of the project. Scalability and planning in terms of decisions on tenancy, architecture, infrastructure are crucial to be defined. They're being further defined in the next steps, but they start to be defined on this step. Compliance, governance, we'll touch it as well, and a roadmap for the MVP. So in terms of actors, we need to understand which actors will be available on the app. And in such, in this case, it's a simple one. We have mainly admins that can edit content and work on the website, while normal users can view the platform publicly. Who is admin? In that case, the owner. And then day-to-day operators, staff, and end users. In that case, it's just website visitors, which could book. Permission differences. So here you would normally just align. You need to explain from the beginning which type of users you have, and then which type of permissions to which part of components of the website. Then when it comes to compliance, again, different project would have different ones. Depends if you're from the financial industry or from the healthcare and so on. So some markets also have some, for example, GDPR and so on. Exactly. We can move on to the data model part. As you can see here, we have listed the main entities, right? So this is a bit more advanced, but nevertheless, you should know more or less which type of entities you want to save, and of course then enhance it. So here I wrote something, but the output was completely different, obviously. But we're talking about the tables in a way. So if you think about a database, how you would structure, how many tables or how many Excel sheets would you consider for such a project? Estimated daily activity. Does the app need media handling? We noticed that if we connect CDNs such as Bunny or Cloudinary directly to Base44, the performances of delivering images increases, and same applies into attachments and file management. Basically, we would just save the URL of the image or the file, and that would do it. And then the same applies into the database. As most of you know, Base44 uses Mongo database, whereas for database normalization and for scalability for a higher level of data, you would say most probably use a database such as Supabase or managed Postgres database. So the expected number of users in such case, we could mention it here. The expected number of records as well. Will the system store files, or does it need search or filtering? So in terms of expected transaction volume, that would affect a lot the architecture, especially how many transactions per day. Are they certain peaks during the day or during the week? Is there real-time data important? Is the file media upload is important? Is offline mobile field usage is important? And which architecture are we talking about? MVP first, scalable growth, or enterprise first? And that's about the schema design, the relationship and integrity, and performance indexing. Exactly. And then we have the data ownership and lineage. Now I receive a question of what Nexora is about. This is not a SaaS pitch. I just wanted to have some type of a framework for today's workshop. So I created a simple tool that could help you to kind of create the structure. The goal is to show you at the end the documents which we populated through this form. If you're interested to have an access to it, it's still in test as a testing version. I'll be happy to share with you the access and to share with you the details at the end of the workshop. Jumping into the system logic, describe the main workflow, the key status stages, if approvals are required, if notifications are needed, the notification types, and where can automation be applied. So state machines, approval chains for the enterprise language. And then in terms of integration, which integrations are needed for these applications? Are we talking about email, CRM, payments, Google Sheets, Shopify, you name it, additional integrations if they're needed, and then external servers or Base44 handles everything, custom server API. Here we thought about n8n. Is external developer collaboration is expected, Git-based development, MVP first. Right. And that's one before the last. Interface, main interface types. And here we have if a mobile is important or nice to have, or it's mobile first, and let's say app first. Today everything is almost mobile first, so it would be, yeah. But exactly. And then for some obviously for some internal tools, I would say sometimes desktop is really enough, and it's also the wish of certain corporates. But yeah, do you need analytics dashboard? Yes. That's it. There was some. We were able to create most of the files, which that makes me happy. The most important ones in that case. Basically, we created here some templates and use different AI models to create those documents based on the input. And as you can see here, so what do we have here? We have a structured concept document with the entire vision. I will open it here. Again, it's AI made. Normally, I would not deliver to a customer a document like this, but it could definitely benefit today for you to see and understand the structure, and also for the future for our internal use, we might use it as at least as an initial structure, and of course on the line improve it further. So you will have here some type of an overview, the problem statement about the let's say the current application, the purpose solution, the target users and personas. So we have the business owner, the content admin, the luxury traveler, the bespoke client, and here we have the goal. So it's the needs, the experience, the core features, the capabilities, the data and the workflow highlights, the compliance and privacy considerations, technology and platform heats. So it's all here. I would love to go with you into detail, but that's like a mini version, just like one pager of the concept of the document, which could be then further you can work on it, and also fed it to your own favorite, let's say AI chat. Let it be Claude or ChatGPT, in order to do your magic. So in terms of build specifications, that's the BRD that I mentioned earlier. You would have here then the executive summary with a bit deeper approach on the entire documentation and the entire, let's say, execution of the application. Again, very raw, but still cool to have. So here you would have, let's say, functional requirements, and this is where it becomes crucial. So with vibe coding, you think sometimes in terms of usage. I see, and I would love to show you now in parallel. I took this idea and I tried to use the Base44 planning solution, and I just put a travel agent portal for custom trips and pre-made trips. Right? And then it asked me a few legit roles. So it asked me who will use this portal and how does it work. I said both roles. And then what should travelers be able to do with custom trips? Submit a custom trip request form, chat, message with the agent, or view and approve quote proposal. And then what's the visual vibe you're going for? It was luxury and editorial. And then it created the magic basically. I said plan approved, and it created this one page. I hope you could hear me now better. So, as you can see here, sure, it's a platform. It's something cool for some people. Some people will get excited from it. You have here some information. That's great. A form. But there is no real planning. So in order for me now to continue on, I will have now to just continue to type in the chat and send all the ideas and all the client wishes one by one, and basically create something so-called spaghetti code. It used to be called in the past. I think it's still super relevant. It's just spaghetti code in square, I would say. Exactly. So in order to have a bit more, let's say, straightforward approach here, that's why we need to break down all of those functionalities into points. And perhaps we can continue to this one, but first maybe I will open just the output folder. and show you the roles and permission mix, right? So we were talking about different type of roles. So here we have mainly, let's say, the admin, then the let's say the admins can edit content on the website, the review, and some users. And then you would have some, I mean, such a role and permission matrix is super useful, especially for enterprises use, but also I would say for almost everybody, especially once you have different amount of users, different roles. You absolutely want to have different features, entities, and modules where you then map them, who can have which rights. And then again, feel free to export it and use it either directly on Base or curate it first through ChatGPT or Claude. So that's about the roles and permission metrics. As for the luxury travel agent portal, we have here the initial output for the WBS, where basically all the phases, the tasks are being laid down here. I looked at the quality so far, not the best. I would break it completely different, but still the approach, very important, the approach. You have the discovery phase, you have the planning, you have the design, the development. Obviously the development should be much longer, and then you have the testing, deployment, post-launch. Everybody, especially with vibe coding, don't skip this part. This part of breaking down each step will help you a lot, regardless if you develop it for yourself or for your client, regardless if you develop it for yourself by yourself or with an additional team or support. You want to have structure. You want to have each of those tasks clearly aligned, so you can then as well create QA test cases. Do it from the beginning. For every task that you're about to develop, for every cool feature, define the tests that you need to have. Define the acceptance criteria that the client says, okay, if that specific functionality will work, make sure that, then we will consider this feature as accepted. And obviously a Gantt chart in order to scope. Again, on a weekend you will have some mock-ups, but if you want to make sure that all of those steps could be executed, allocate the time for the vibe coding, definitely, but then you need to test, and then most probably continue to vibe code and fix some things. So it's important to align the time frame with your customers or with yourself to be able to commit to the projects that you develop. All right. So coming back right now into the BRD, that's exactly where you would discuss it, and then of course you will be able to change your scope or your plan in general. Then there are sometimes non-functional requirements, or there's a functional requirement and the non-functional. So like SLA, the performances, scalability, security-wise, accessibility, SEO, marketing wishes as well. Marketing is also very important. Data overview and entity model. So in that case, you can already start with your, in a way, database structure. What do you want to keep and what do you want to save? In that case, we didn't write it in the app definition, but it's very important information, because besides users and trips, if you want to be able, let's say, to follow up with your customers, even those that didn't order, you want to have something like a cart entity, which could be converted to an order, but you don't want to. So those who are familiar with Shopify, there you would have abandoned carts and orders. Those are two different states. So in terms of data cleanliness, you want to have it separated. Then you have the operational workflow of which steps are associated that could from user experience perspective could be associated with. The integration and external systems. So we said something about Stripe, email services, Google Sheets, Calendar, WhatsApp, and so on. So we want to make sure to list them down, and also to mention, are those must-have? What's the additional description? What do they exactly should do? Permission and access model. We have it as well. So we have it on the role and permission matrix, but still you need to go from a managerial approach and to list it down. So I was able to basically export this entire folder just before we started today, and to upload it into my favorite GPT. I will not say which one of them, but in order to get the best prompt. And we also get here some prompt recommendations. Still, I wish to fine tune it further. It's still cool, but it's here. The system architecture is as well here. So an architectural overview for the different layers, how it's going to work. Normally you would do even some diagrams. I've been able to take them and to preview for you on Mermaid. This is also very important in terms of flow. Print it out, and if it's your startup, just print this board and put it in the office somewhere, just to make sure you understand how the flow and how everything interacts. Especially once you grow, it's super crucial. You want to have some visual understanding of how the service works, especially when you have more integrations and more needs. That's about that. But the architecture plan I would definitely give to our CTO or to a proper architecture to actually do it. So I showed to you the main documents. I just want to make sure we went through them, right? So the workflow and state, that's the one that would go through the main workflow. Exactly. So there are multiple workflows that needs to be considered, and you should go to them in detail. We have the BRD, which is like a macro view, but you definitely need to go through those details. The WBS and the QA we showed, the solution architecture document as well, the data model schema, that as well. And in terms of compliance, in that case, we didn't push it, but normally you can also have compliance and regulatory considerations. Those you would bring normally from the special people who are you call them regulators in the company or officers. Normally when we work with enterprises, we get from their GDPR compliance officer or from any other exact requirements of what should be done. But there is a document for it at the end as well, which is super important to consider. Platform and stack recommendation as well. This I would say it's a manual work, so we don't think even to start to automate it. Right. So now I would like to open the second, I would say, approach that we wanted in terms of prompting of how at the end such a prompt could look like. It's a bit more, I would say, robust in terms of details and how to create which pages are needed, which filters, which database structure, which workflows, which process. Would be cool actually to see what base consumed in terms of credits for this one, because it's a massive one. But it's not done yet, so yeah. The goal wasn't today actually to create an app directly here. I would say it was more about showing you the structure. If this magic happens as well, let it be. Of course, as recommendation is to break down the prompts into smaller ones. It was more about explaining you how you must have a structure. And for me, the most important structure, if I would narrow it down into two documents, would be the WBS plus the business requirement document, the BRD. Because those two help you to actually create the framework and the structure for executing your plan. So if it's on a, let's say on a human approach, the BRD, normally for non-technical people would make more sense. They could read through it, review their entire review their entire, let's say, scope, understand where it goes to, see, mark if something is missing, or mark if something is perhaps not necessarily for phase one or for the initial MVP, so to say. And then as well for scoping the project and to make sure everyone are happy, both the developer, the builder, and the client. You would need to create this WBS. Just break down all the tasks. You will be able to report much easier about the current status, on which step you are at the moment, and whether or not depends on your agreement, if it's a fixed price or time and material, be able to transparently provide the information which is needed on time in order to remain or increase the scope. And we are getting, I think it's we're getting to the point where we covered most of what I wanted to show you today. We decided last minute to stream on YouTube instead of doing the Google Meet, so sorry for the part of interactiveness, but I think now it's the time where you can start to post your questions, and I'll be more than happy to share with you my insights and provide you some answers. So let's So I'm looking right now. I have here Anna is assisting me today. Anna, thank you very much. So she summarized for me the questions. Question number 1: where is vibe coding located in Base 44, or what is the name? Okay, so let's go to the basics. Vibe coding refers to the term. I think Sam Altman was one of the first ones who mentioned it or picked up on it, I would say, in the public space. And it's the use of platforms like ChatGPT or Claude to basically type something, or even Copilot to type something and generate a code in parallel. So it means not the classic coding. And Base 44 is a framework, I would say, for vibe coders. So where is this project plan located, so we can fill it in blanks? Is it Base 4? No, it's our internal one, and we'll share it. Feel free to type. Maybe Anna will help you with build.charabella.com and require basically early access, and we'll be happy to share with you our knowledge. So the name of the site is here. These tools template is going to be shared with us. Yes, as I just mentioned. I see everybody are super happy about it. There's tons of material about it online, and I noticed that, funny or silly enough, not in all the universities they actually teach about it. You get to put your hands on purely from enterprise use cases, and at the same time, I would say they're quite crucial in order to keep everything into frame. So until I receive some new questions, maybe I can share with you some words about other questions that I received before. What's the difference between Base 44 and Claude Code in general, and how you would differentiate the other platforms? In my opinion, Base 44 gives you let's start from Claude Code. From Claude, I think it would be easier. So Claude Code is a cool instrument by Anthropic that lets you to prompt directly to a terminal and say what you need. So let's assume I would now ask for the same app to be developed, and what will happen basically is that it would be done, but much superficial level. Much less than what actually Base would give you from one prompt. Yes, it would give you ownership to the code. Yes, it would be developed locally on your computer or whatever you define it. However, you need to you need to be busy with so many things, such as deployment, running a Docker in some of the cases, managing the hosting, then everything that has to do with security. Whereas Base 44, when I say it's a framework for vibe coders, because of course it still matters on your configurations. You have the security part. If you will allow everyone to do everything, then the risk is on you. However, with minimum efforts, you could get a very good level of security around your app, and you don't need to think about the hosting or anything as such. So that's the, I would say, the big advantage using Base 44. So once an app is completed and we roll it out to public, who owns the app? It's a good question. So if you say it from Base 44, I would say it's still on a SaaS agreement. I didn't check it into detail. Meaning you have ownership on what you developed in a way, on the part that you developed. You have the use license for it. You may export also to GitHub the front end and the functions. The back end, the hosting, yes, but this could be kind of replicated quite easily. So let's say if I develop this website right now, this platform, and we have a front end and we have functions and we have some APIs that we made, this could be exported easily to via GitHub. And if from the beginning you don't even use the database of Base and you're using Supabase, for example, then migration becomes much easier. Base 44 will help you to maintain, let's say, a nice app and to develop it further via prompts, which that's their magic. And you want to remain in the Base 44 ecosystem because you always have updates for the recent AI models, and you don't need to subscribe to them separately. And there is a lot of internal LLMs being involved as well, which is a huge asset. So I have a question here. I did some good projects on Base 44. Above all, real estate CRM, the problem I'm facing is that operations on database are really slow with error 500. That you need to check. If it's an external database, normally that would bring the error 500. You need to check why. If the CRM is really, really big and you save all the data on Base 44 directly, I think also among the other ambassadors and partners, we realized that this number of 5,000, again, it depends also how many columns you have, and because 5,000 rows, one table type would be different from another table type, but it's more or less, let's say 10, 15 columns, 5,000 rows. More than that, it would start to lag a bit in terms of indexation. Is the advanced prompt session that was scheduled for today cancelled? No, it was not. That was the advanced prompt session. I would say it's about the advanced prompt session is all about which information you need even in order to create the advanced prompt. So the advanced prompt as an output is here. As I was able to show you before, it's super advanced prompt. The point is how you create it. It's your information. So obviously, if I will give you now one advanced prompt, it would be good for one specific use case. The goal here was how you could make your own. And in order to do that, you must ask the right questions. You must discover the right questions in order to be able to create your master prompt. How can I improve an already existing Base 44 app? Is possible to duplicate it and prompt a new update? Yes, I would say the best would be to duplicate and switch to discuss mode. Perhaps try to do some reverse engineering on the app that you currently have. Ask Base, define the current database schema, or define the current flow, and so on. And then just try to document it into one file and then fetch it to one of your favorite GPT models, or continue to discuss with Base directly, really depending on the scope, depending on your level of experience. Well, Base 44 supports API, Open API integrations. So, as I said, there is one called Supa Base, which we use, and it seems to be working very, very well together. I think Base 44, as you see, I think it's one of the fast and growing companies that I ever encountered with. And big kudos to the CEO and founder, Mao Shlomo, for being able from January to bootstrap the whole thing without external funds, with a small team. I think on March, April, and then we onboarded actually, I think April or March last year, so it's for sure already a year. The point is that the company grows fast, the entire industry grows fast, and I'm sure there would be more integrations for databases and more improvements along the way. As an ambassador and as a partner, we get lots of inside information in terms of what the team, some of it for sure, what the team are working on, and it's going crazy. I don't know. Really, the sky is the limit. So, who on the front end? What about backend? Yeah, well, the backend. The backend is something which is could be divided into 2 parts or even to 3 parts. The database, up to you. Feel free to connect from the beginning to an external one, right? Then you have functions. So you create a function. For normal people, that's not the front end, right? If we say we need a cron job or a data validation instrument to run on the background or something as such, that would be then saved under the functions. So perhaps I can share with you quickly again how that would look like. Right, that was here. So here we have the code part, and here now we don't have it because we didn't create here any function. But normally you would have here a function folder where you would have all your functions listed, and basically the entire code which you see here could be exported or directly connected into GitHub. Again, I would love to show you other projects where all of it is done and made, but unfortunately, due to NDA reasons and we are now public, I would definitely not be able nor willing to share it. But as I mentioned, the code could be exported pretty easily. And again, backend is something which is some of it for sure, for now at least, cannot be exported. Is the database of Base, the CRM has only 23 users and few properties, is really just a starting project. Okay, so feel free to contact me, and I will be able to suggest a 15 minutes support call to go with you through your app, and hopefully that would solve your current situation. Do you recommend to use Supabase instead of Base 44 with large database? I think yes, with larger even other solution, but I think yes, especially if indexation is important and speed matters. I think that it would make sense. Yeah, I agree. No, I mean, those vibe coding tools are great, and I can tell you we are working at the moment on a big mobile app, and it's we made there obviously a proper discovery phase where all of that information was crucial, and we gathered it, and then in the end, I wanted to try to take these entire documents that were properly made, and to try to do via Base a nice mock-up for the admin part for the app. So think about Uber, just for a completely other niche. Would be more than happy to launch it later on. There are some celebrities involved in this project, let's say, and from the US, very known people. And we needed an admin dashboard at least to view in order to discuss about it, how it's going to look like, how you're going to do the conflict resolutions and everything. Honestly, within 2-3 prompts, using the entire results of the discovery session, using those BRD document, using this infrastructure, descriptions of flows. Again, those were done in the past via business analyst. So those were made very, very proper through different sessions of interviews with the clients. But the results are much different. So obviously when I started with Base, I didn't use that approach. It was just chatting from mobile, from computer, any possibility. But now it's definitely, I would totally dump that approach and move towards having everything documented. It's just the healthiest way to grow. And then especially if you want other team members to continue pick up, you can tell, hey, we have that part. Let's say, where was it exactly? So I could definitely tell to one of my developers, especially if something is now required custom integration, for example, hey, take over WBS 021 and 022 and to delegate another task to another developer, and then basically be able to control the versioning based on the number of the ID of the story of the epic. For those of you who have a bit more experience with project management, that would be the way to kind of scale also in teams. So yeah, that's definitely the way to go. Yeah, this one seems to be very, very long. All I did is just to stop and said continue. I'm still believing in this one. Also, although I didn't see it, but that's a live bet. But it's obviously, I mean, if this one took, let's see how long it took. So it took like 3.1 credit use. It's not much for a system, especially as an initial prompt, right? I mean, it's okay. Design, I wouldn't complain. We didn't provide much info, but design, by the way, in terms of design, I would highly recommend when it comes to visuals to use Figma, and there are some very cool AI tools, or a UI UX specialist are still a valid work. Just connect it now with the CMP, or just switch to dev mode and copy one by the other. We will release soon a custom app that we made using Figma, and it looks fabulous. So yes, while this one is still working, let's see if we have some new questions. I had this one is a good one. What is the outlook, and how would in the future, how would development teams look like? Classic development teams, not AI. Well, the way, in my opinion, the way it's gonna look, it's gonna go down into 3 main roles when we think about small teams. The first one would be a system engineer, somebody that still understand development, still understand coding, still understand how scalable infrastructure looks like. The second role would be BA, a business analyst that can actually gather all the requirement, understand the business, understand the use case, and be able to gather all the information from the client, from the stakeholders. And then for the short term, a prompt engineer, somebody that could take the system engineer requirements with the BA and be able to generate those prompts. It might be delegated to the BA in the future, maybe to the system engineer, maybe some agent could take over it, but that's like the approach of how I see it currently. Yeah. What else? We have, yeah, that's normal. It's a big prompt. I would not do that normally, but that's like the mega big prompt. Just for you to go through the numbers again. It's just the initial explanation about the product. It's about the main user types. It's about the structure of the pages, what each page should contain, which information, about the blog, the FAQs, the admin dashboard, what the admin dashboard should look like, how the database structure should look like. Normally, I would suggest start with the database structure, and that's why actually I should have been disciplined to the suggestion that we had here initially. So, as I said, but that was just too little. Yes. Exactly. So, in terms of future development, also I noticed that now more and more corporates and enterprises, banks are investing a lot into autonomous development and development via agents. So this is not just a hype. We're talking about tens of millions that each bank nowadays allocates just into exploring of how you could have development supported by AI. So that's this next hybrid level. So again, base, go for it. The next level would be you need to have developers. So if we're talking about the enterprise part, you need to have the developers in hand to be able to work closely. So can you vibe code the front end? Yes, most probably yes, absolutely. Is it something that I would say do it without do it also for the backing and for the rest of the components in integrations? Depends on your scope. That's what I would say. I would be more than happy to share this one with you afterwards, and I think we would do it, especially we're planning to take the recording of today's workshop and then share with you the results. So you will definitely see it there. Thank you very much for tuning in today. And if we don't have any further questions, would then call it for the day. Let me just see on the chat. Yes. All right. We don't have any further questions, and Base doesn't want to finish this big fancy prompt. I would then be more than happy to share it with you afterwards. Go ahead. It's, as I said, build.charabella.com. You will find here the form to drop your information. Would be more than happy to follow up with you on your inquiries, and lots of success and good luck with the code vibing from my side. Wishing you a wonderful day ahead and an amazing weekend. Tomorrow it's the 1st of May. Some of you are not working. Go and celebrate with your families, with the close ones. All the best, my dears.